see if she said she was walking in.
Yes, when she came home before she said.
I'm gonna ask who you're there. Okay. My coordinator.
This was a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, I thought
Drafted
Thank
my
you.
plans, and you said you might want to dial it back. It was pretty
Oh,
intense
there's
at first.
But,
It was too much.
yeah,
It's just, I don't know. They're still, they're acting like they're put together, but one is not the other. It's very different. Yeah.
No back door.
Yes, I did. I'm gonna hold that door. I was like, am I gonna respond? Okay. That's okay. I kind of forget that actually that is what you're on for. Anyway.
Yeah, just share.
Okay, 6:07, I'm going to call the meeting to order. First business is the board seat appointment with Holly and Don. This is one for Enosburg. I understand there's two people interested. Elijah, welcome, and Lisa, welcome. If you guys could you first confirm that you're both from Enosburg, and then afterwards, why you guys are interested in the seat, the board seat? Sure.
All right. Other people asked me if I'd be interested in volunteering for this seat. And I think she thought I had a good education background. I taught for therapy at St. Albans for 7 years. And I taught in Michigan for 3 years before that. And I still teach. I work for Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative. And we teach across the state to all sorts of kids, and I'm in the middle school program. And so I have an education background, which I think is useful. And I also really want to give back to the community that I've joined. My wife and I moved here 3 years ago. I don't know a lot about the community. I thought this would be a really good way to learn about it and to get to know people and to do some service. I think that's important. I find a lot of value in that, and yeah, I'm excited to learn more about the school board.
Thank you. Lisa, how about you? Right now, we have one position that's open. Polly Rico resigned last month. I'm gonna appoint Elijah for this position, but I do think we're gonna have a position opening up soon. So please, Lisa, please, attend next meeting if you can.
If you're gonna make a motion to Elijah.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Elijah for the school board. Everyone in favor? Hey Elijah, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
I think, well, I think one of the things that you were talking about originally was that you had heard from Elijah first in the
Yes,
process.
yes, that's what it was.
I wanted just to express appreciation for both Elijah and for Lisa for having interest in serving on the board, and I think Lisa, we've got some upcoming work for you as well, so thank you both.
And Elijah, I'll be reaching out to you to get the paperwork we need to make the appointment official. And so you can certainly watch and participate in this meeting, but you're not allowed to vote yet until you take the oath of office. And I'll reach out and we'll get that done before the next meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, next we have board reorganization with Polly Dean Bell, she's our chair. The vice is filling in, so I'll take nominations for the chair.
I'll nominate Mark for chair.
Any other nominations? Okay, so yeah, one nomination myself. All in favor?
Alright, aye. Correct.
So with me being chair now, it opens up the vice chair. So I'll take nominations for the vice chair.
I'll nominate Sarah.
Sarah for nomination. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor for Sarah for vice chair? No.
So, at least you actually made it that.
So now with Sarah getting vice chair, we're gonna have to, we're gonna need a clerk, so I'll take nominations for the clerk. Cool. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor of Kua for sure, for clerk? Aye.
So there's a little domino effect happening here, which we anticipate when the airport seats open. So we'll need someone who might have interest in serving on the policy committee.
You say you're already on.
Good.
So we meet, just a little more information, we meet, the second Wednesday of every month virtually. It's usually from 3:30 until around 4:30. Sometimes it's just a little bit longer and sometimes it's shorter. So there's some reading to do the week before that policy committee, just to review the policies that are up. So we would love to have another board member participate in that. If you're interested in doing that.
The time is. You said once a month?
Yes. It's on, second Wednesday at 3:30. If you don't have interest right now, you could also leave it vacant for a month.
Premier. Think about it.
Yeah. I'll bring that back next time for your reorganization.
Consent agenda, previous minutes.
Make a motion.
Somebody made a motion to approve the last minutes. All in favor? And policy, we have no first read, second read, firearms and weapons, substitute teachers, and foreign exchange program. Any questions on that? comments? No, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Make a motion.
Sarah's made the motion, all in favor? Do you need to reprioritize?
So I would like to reprioritize under Mr. Webb's agenda for the high school. There is a request from the senior class at Enosburg High School, so I would love to move that request to just after our spotlight.
Did you say after school?
Yes.
Recognition visitors or visitors? Have one visitor?
I'm SJ Marcotte. I teach business leadership here. Do more in-depth introduction in my presentation.
You kind of get you two visitors also. Who you would want to speak.
Oh, Lisa. Lisa, would you like to say anything?
No, I don't want to say at this point, but thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the school spotlight. Great.
I'll turn it over to Sarah Joe.
I'm a present on my feet kind of person, so. Is there sound? There's no sound. Nate asked me to present tonight. I'm really honored to be here to have the opportunity to highlight the important work that we're doing here at Hope Hollow Career Center to ensure that all of our students, by the time they leave our programs, are prepared for their next steps. Whether that be continuing in post-secondary education, heading into the workforce, military or other volunteer opportunities when they leave us. We are doing cutting-edge work in the area of employability skill development, so I'm excited to be here to talk about that. I want to give you a little bit of background about me. Many of you know me, some of you do not, and I'm hoping that you can appreciate the various lenses that I come to this work in. So I'm presenting, but I also have been heavily involved in the development of the work that we're doing here in terms of employability skill development. So I'm a graduate of this building a long time ago. It's getting longer and longer every single year. I've been here teaching business leadership. This is my 11th year in that role. I'm also the new co-op coordinator in this building new this year. I'm a founding member of the equity leadership team here in the district. So part of the kind of the grassroots effort that started in June of 2020 that has now evolved to the great work that we're doing in centering equity in all of our schools. I'm a small business owner. I've owned a business for 21 years in our community. I've maintained a certification as a Dale Carnegie instructor. I'm a community leader and I'm a mom of a student in one of our schools. So when I come to this work every day, and particularly in the area of employability skills, I'm coming at it from all of these areas. It is something that I care about very, very deeply. I'm both really invested in career and tech ed, but specifically in these particular transferable skills because I see the incredible importance in a future that is really, really unpredictable, where we know the technical skills are just changing and evolving at such a rapid pace that we know from industry, we know from research and from data that these are the skills that transfer. These are the skills that are not replaced by AI. These are the skills that will differentiate our students out in the great wide world in the amazing work that they will continue to do. I did mention that we have these employability skills that I believe that we are on the leading edge of this work. We have been refining these skills for all of the time that I've been here. Like anything in education and in industry, good practice is continuous improvement. So I don't think we're never going to be there. It's never going to be perfected. We will continue to evolve and respond. We have our employability skills areas now consolidated into 6 primary focus areas. So I have a handout that's coming around, we can kind of pass it along. as that's coming around, just a little context. So 11 years ago, when I started, we had kind of this rubric, if you will, for employability skills. It included things like physical presentation, like how you dress, and language that you use, and some personal hygiene types of things. And those rubrics were kind of the good practice in CTE, at least in the state of Vermont, as far as we know, at that time. And we have just stayed committed to making sure that this evolution of these skills has progressed in a way that is truly connected to skill development, not just how folks present themselves in the world, but what they can do and how they can influence the environments that they're in. So I'll give you a minute just to take a look at these 6 areas. We've worked really tirelessly to get to this iteration where these skills have a very clear goal and really simple, easy to understand language with 3 performance indicators, again, in student focused, but also something that's employer friendly, as all of these skills have been developed with the guidance and input of employers across all industries through our employee advisory groups here, through all of our programs, and also in collaboration with other instructors across the state who are in our career clusters. And the growth principles and commitments at the bottom are the things that we expect that all students are bringing to the table in their work, and we're supporting their development. I hope also that you will see a very clear crosswalk to the work that is being done at Franklin Northeast around proficiency-based learning and around our kind of portion of graduate work. There is nothing here in this work that does not easily and seamlessly crosswalk to those proficiencies that we are working on for our students leaving Franklin Northeast schools. These are yours to take, so feel free to talk about it. One of the things that I've committed to and that we've committed to at Cold Hollow this year is continuing to work with our instructors around some good practices for helping students to develop the knowledge, understanding, and skills necessary to leave here ready for the workplace and other things that they will do. So I invested time this summer with the K-D framework, so know, understand, do, and really breaking down these skills to look at what is the essential knowledge that is really required if we're going to expect that students can demonstrate these skills. Because these are the do things. These are the things that we would, the behaviors and the things that we would see students being able to do. But there, like all skills, there is foundational based knowledge that is required there, and understanding, in order for either that demonstration of skill to be there at all, or for students coming in with some base skill in those areas for them to take it to the next level. So I'm going to ask Courtney on this next slide to click on this website. This is a website that we launched a couple of years ago prior to COVID. When COVID hit, we kind of took it down and did a little reassessment and have brought it back this year. This is a site that all of our students and instructors have access to. And Courtney, if you would go to the skills dropdown and click on communication. So we have our 6 skill areas. Each one of them has its own page where the performance indicators are broken down into explanations that would be easy for students to understand, and then this landing page for each content area with 8 resources that are an assortment of things like TED Talks or YouTube videos or articles or blog posts that I have worked with instructors to curate that are applicable to all programs, so they are not industry specific, but would give students a chance to build some of that knowledge and understanding and give instructors a place to maybe pull some resources to integrate into their classroom instruction. And so each one of the skills has these resources curated. And then we are also working this year at the program level for instructors to identify industry-specific resources in these 6 categories that will have a page just for their program where those resources can be housed and easily accessible to them and to students, and kind of building that bank of industry-specific resources in these categories, also supported by our advisory boards across industries. So in addition to this website, work that we're doing this year around that KUD framework takes some instructor resources, so these are not student-facing, but resources that I've built for instructors and that we will work to further develop collaboratively with instructors and with industry, for instructors to be able to have some additional resources to integrate into their practice, into their instructional practice, to help students specifically with knowledge and understanding. What we were finding is that we, in CTE, we're so focused on skill development. Like, we do that really, really well. We do hands-on, workplace relevant skill development, and yet when we go to assess these employability skills, we were kind of running into this situation where it became not difficult. We could assess them, but there was something missing. And what I'm proposing this year that may have been missing is this idea of how to assess the knowledge and understanding separately from the skill development. And when we tried to put all of those things together, the feedback and the assessment just didn't feel quite right. So Courtney, if you would click on that resource. So again, internal for our instructors is now a resource. This is iteration number 1. I do not expect that this is it, but I think folks are excited about having this. So we have this KUD framework for each one of the employability skill areas, and if you would scroll down, Courtney, it's okay. Page 2, I think will get us to where we want to be. So for example, dependability is one of our content areas, and so instructors have access to now some information around know and understand. The do part is what we've been focusing on right along. These are the performance indicators from that handout that I gave you that we have been actively working on skill development with students. Now what we've built in is what needs to happen in terms of knowledge building and understanding capacity to ensure that this, number 1, happens, and number 2, can happen at the greatest level possible for all of our students. So we've identified some key vocabulary and some key concepts, and if you scroll down, Courtney, each one of these areas then has gets us back to the website and then the teacher resources if you click here. So this document then is an instructional, a little database, if you will, of some instructional ideas. Starting place, we're working on this together, and I'm excited about PD time on Tuesdays. For some of that time this year for our staff to be used to continue to develop these instructional strategies. Things that are quick, easy, does not mean for an instructor that they have to figure out how to fit in something new, because we believe that these skills are integrated into our content areas. And then if you scroll down to page 2, we'll get an example again for dependability. 3 core vocabulary terms with some descriptions that are contextually appropriate. So what I found as an instructor, a lot of times we can say, okay, well, we're going to talk about integrity, But integrity can mean a lot of different things in different contexts, in different industries, and different applications. And I know as an instructor, sometimes it can feel overwhelming to be like, well, I know what that is. But in terms of like finding the language to present it to a student in a way that feels on point can sometimes feel, when you have a million other things to do, just like overwhelming. So I did kind of go through and curate and look for those accurate descriptions that are contextually appropriate for the work that we do here, to take some of that lift off of our instructors. And then at the bottom of each one of these is a resource bank for not resources that we developed, because I also believe very strongly with a commitment to efficiency that there is no need to recreate the wheel if we do not have to. So I've gone out and found applicable and relevant resources to support the strategies, the concepts, the tools that an instructor might use with their classes. Again, this bank of resources is all transferable to all programs, not necessarily industry specific, but we will be working this year for those industry specific resources as well. Let me go to the next slide. Just briefly want to give you an example of what this looks like in practice. And this is super relevant to this week. On Monday, yesterday, my students, when they come into business leadership, have a morning discussion prompt that they do online, and they have some think time to respond, and it's usually an entry point into content that we're going to be covering, or a little formative assessment, or sometimes just for fun. And they have to respond to a couple of peers, and then we have a discussion to launch our time together. So I had posed questions about integrity because we hadn't talked about it yet. We had been talking about dependability as an employability skill. So I posed that question, asked them how they thought it might be connected without having any direct instruction yet. And so they had some awesome insights, as you would expect that they would. And it gave us a place then to launch in to a really great, deep discussion, not just about like, hey, you gotta show up on time, and you gotta, be prepared and follow expectations, but getting them to really think about how their own personal integrity is connected to that, and what it means when we bring integrity to the work that we do with employers or in other contexts as well. This was like 15 minutes at the beginning of the class, and it got us to a level that allowed us to have a different kind of discussion, and I know will allow us to have a different kind of exploration of these skills. We can skip, let's just touch on this briefly. Just contextually from my practice in business leadership, we'll be connecting dependability to work that we're doing right now that's connected to purpose mindset, core values, strengths, and helping students to get to know themselves so that they can bring their best selves to all of the work that they do in their life. So we're accessing this content in terms of knowledge building. We're exploring and interacting with big picture concepts and context to build your capacity for greater understanding. And then, as we always do in career tech, we're practicing and applying. So in my program, as well as in all of our programs, we expect students to do things like call in if they're not going to be here. So no parents calling in, no caregiver calling in. They may still have to do that for the high school, but here, just like in the job, they are responsible for picking up the phone and letting their instructor know that they're not coming in and making arrangements to get caught up, just like you would in the workplace. Same thing if they're going to be tardy. If they know they're going to be missing class, we have, every program has their own process, but in my program, they schedule that time off. So they come, they talk to me like I'm the boss. They say, hey, I've got this thing going on. I've got students going to FFA, to the national convention coming up. So these students are coming to me saying, here's my calendar, here's when I'm going to be out. We put that in our team Google Calendar so everybody knows what the team dynamic is going to be, and they are responsible for doing that. In addition to a lot of other workplace relevant routines and good practices that exist in all of our programs. So we are building this capacity in them here in this building. So it is not just here's what you should know, here's the poster, but they're getting a chance to practice it with good support and coaching. The last two things that I'm really excited about are the assessment of these skills. And again, I mentioned that I think that this is a place where we've had a little bit of a breakdown in terms of the assessment not feeling like it is really reflecting comprehensively where students are at. This is a proposal. We're going to try it out, and I anticipate that we will adjust and fine-tune it. But I'm looking at breaking out the assessment of content separate from the skill development. So again, a proposal that when we are talking about that knowledge and understanding, that this scale is a learning scale that reflects the progression of their learning and would be used for formative assessments, would be used for students to reflect on their own growth and for instructors and students to work together to help benchmark growth over time. So being able to define those key concepts and vocabulary, to explore and explain some of those principles, strategies, concepts, identifying where their strengths are and where their opportunities are for growth, and then over time being able to reflect on their growth. As part of the foundational work that needs to happen in parallel with the skill development, which is the second assessment level for skill. So this reflects a very similar process that we have been using over the years here. And what we are finding is it's one thing to assess a student's skill, but we were not getting at that other foundational knowledge and understanding. So the proposal that we're going to try this year would have students at the base of this learning when they're just starting out practicing in the classroom. So it's with it's teacher-led scenarios, teacher-led activities, where everything is appropriately scaffolded and they're getting a hands-on but very supported experience in the skill development. So in my program, that's things like on the first day of school, I send my students in small groups into Nate's office, which adjoins my classroom. They have a whiteboard with the classroom number on it, and they all called and made that phone ring, and I picked it up and put it on speakerphone, and the rest of us listened as they said their name and explained why they wouldn't be in class today, and practiced that routine and that expectation of calling them, which all of them were horrified by, as you can imagine. But we practiced it, and then they were like, okay, that wasn't that bad. So that's this kind of practice. And then the next level would be, again, still in the classroom context, but where they would be in more of their lab experiences. So in my program, that might be running a Hollow Cup, which is our little cafe, or the Open Door at the Enosburg High School. In automotive, they may be working in the shop, they might be out in the community, but they're in the context of our learning time, and they have support and coaching in their practice. And then a 3 is where we're going to expect all students to be when they leave our programs, and that is ready for entry-level jobs. So I think that's another thing that we've done is kind of rein in with the support of our advisory boards what is realistic for all students. All students do not have to be star amazing employees who are ready to be managers. That's not what we're looking for. Some of them will be, and some of them have been, and some of them all of them go on to do amazing things. But this is the expectation. And this is driven by industry. What it looks like in practice will be instructor driven with the support of the advisory boards, where they will be setting up, this is what dependability and communication and problem solving looks like in the automotive industry, in construction tech, in medical careers, in human services. And then at the 4 level, the students who really excel, go above and beyond, have a body of evidence that supports that they can do this independently in a variety of contexts. And the goal here is that that body of evidence be employer-facing and be something that they can take with them that is industry relevant. So not necessarily like a school portfolio, but something that industry would expect from employees in that context. So for example, our human services program is preparing many students to go off to be teachers. And all of you teachers in the room or anyone who's been licensed as a teacher know that you have to have a portfolio to be licensed by the AOB. So helping them to develop a portfolio that reflects that process that they will already have to do when they leave here is the goal that we have at this level. We do not, at this point, we're not expecting that this is where all students will be, but that this is an option and something that we would be striving for. And because this is a highlight, I want to wrap up with some feedback from students that was spotted at the high school. When I was over there the other day, there's a beautiful bulletin board in Matthew's hallway by the back door that was talking about the best decision that folks made in high school, and I assume these were seniors who did this.
Guidance for that.
And there were a couple that talked, this one right here, and this one, talked about going to Port Apollo, so I snapped a couple of pictures from our Facebook page, and then Brenna Sturdivant replied and said, actually, there was a whole bunch of them we didn't have room, and she graciously shared those with us. And I just want to celebrate, this is the reason that I am committed to Franklin Northeast and to Port Apollo Career Center, and have been since I was a student starting in 1993, is because it changes lives.
Awesome, thank you so much. I appreciate how transparent you made all of the work, like the vision for where you are, where you're going, what the next steps are. It's incredibly powerful to hear that and see that all work out. Yeah. I might have to engage you beyond this.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I want you all to know this is not me work. It is because I'm passionate about it, and I will carry this torch because I believe in it. But our team here is incredible and is dedicated to this work. It is the thing that we share in common. And aside from all of the amazing technical skills, like this is where it's at moving forward.
Thank you. Next, we're gonna move on to some senior, let's talk about senior privileges.
So Morgan is here. Morgan Stimson is a senior at EFHS, and she is going to present. Can you say a thing or two about what you're involved in school? You do JROTC. What else do you do?
Yeah, so as he said, I'm a senior at Enosburg-Richford High School. I've grown up in Enosburg, been going in the school system since I was 3 years old. And our senior class, I think, is the smallest they've had in, 2 decades maybe? There's less than 50 of us, so we're a pretty tight-knit group. As Mr. Webb said, I'm also in junior ROTC. This is my 4th year. And that has really been benefited me in the same way, I think, as their fellow business leadership did. We have a lot of skills to grow from. And being in my senior year, I've held a leadership position for a year now there. And I figure I may as well run for student president too of my senior class. And sadly, I was the only one who showed up, but I think I can represent them pretty well. Some of the main things that we're really focused on are being able to meet during our non-instructional time. That's the first bullet on here, which would include AT, academic time, that's really our study hall. We have, if you don't have a very intensive course, you might want to just go home or study there regardless. Especially at lunch, that's the thing that a lot of freshmen look forward to, is getting out of the cafeteria, being able to support local businesses such as Blind Disc, possibly Memory Garden, McDonald's. And then to enforce this, we go to the main office and just sign in and out the time, our name, basic stuff, so they know where we're going. And we're aware of consequences if we're not back on time. As this says, only main entrance lobby can be used. And if you drive, you can only drive yourself regardless of how long you've had your lessons on. And like I said, consequences and registration, as there is over willingness, if they see so fitting, which we'll be aware of because most of us have taken a moment to look at these privileges so far. We had a meeting, I think, in May with Maggie. So we're also having a senior meeting this Friday to review this and sign it if it gets approved. Another thing that was brought up to me today was possibly changing these later on in the school year. If some of us decide that we wanna add maybe like a student lounge or bring that activities throughout the course and then see if we can get it approved here again. Probably 3 of us would come to this board meeting that time, but as of now, the majority of us agree with these standards.
You saying what we would consider adding?
We were thinking about possibly having like a senior lounge, like a room or something. Like if you don't wanna leave during your prep period. Like some students live in Bakersfield or Sheldon, and that's really good to drive off if you only have like an hour and 15 or 20 minutes for a class. So just a space of our own to be able to relax there. Does anyone have any questions regarding this?
Courtney, can you go to the behavior section? Okay, so I hit this number 7, so it sounds like students that have privileges have to be in good standing
Yes,
with their
of course.
behavior and with their academics as well. Do you have any concerns about any of this, Mr. Wood?
No, I think it's pretty strict, actually. The fact that you guys are bringing it forward, that we bring it forward is helpful.
Do you have any concerns about, in the original request about leaving during lunch and during AT?
If they don't need intervention, theoretically, if they're doing well in all of their classes, that should work. If they don't need interventions and they aren't teacher requested, I'm okay with that.
Is advisory separate from that?
Advisory, yes, advisory is separate from that, and they are required to go to advisory. I forget AT has had many names over the years here. Advisory is separate, we're calling home base this year, and seniors have to go to their home base.
So is that clear to seniors?
Yes, this year it's only one day and it's 50 minutes broken up into 25 and 25. So it's pretty manageable for most of us, considering it's only 1 day a week. It's something really good. And it's actually pretty solid so far.
So is this an enhancement to something that already exists, or?
Yes.
What's currently in place?
Currently, we don't have our senior privileges until it gets approved here, but this has been a thing in years past. And this is documented from beforehand. We had a meeting back in May just to revise and see if there was anything that we wanted to change or add. But there was nothing. So it's been the same.
So these are the same agreements that last year's.
Yes.
So it's been kind of a long-standing tradition at Enosburg is that seniors make a request to the school board about opening up campus just for the seniors, so it's a request for this.
Yeah, the only thing that some of us have been debating about is, I think number 7 over here, you scroll up a little bit, was buying lunch for underclassmen, which I completely agree with if you're gonna go into a classroom and possibly disrupt them with like 2 big bags of food. And then that's a disruption for the students and the teachers, but if you have the same like lunch period as your younger sibling or your younger friend, a lot of us don't see why that rule would be in place, as long as it's not disruptive with others, if we're for this.
The food would be, the other thing is it's a privilege to get other food. It isn't always up to the same nutritional quality as the school lunches, so we don't want to create an ongoing disincentive to eat a complete healthy meal at school.
Yeah, we just feel like as long as it doesn't cause problems in order to make this rule very strict in place, we can start it out maybe possibly a little more lenient and then changing it if it becomes too hectic. Like we know it is a privilege, so we'll see if we're gonna handle that. And if changes need to be in place, then
So I think your request as written is that you won't do that, you won't make a purchase for any underclassmen, but are you proposing that you want the board to consider something different?
yeah, a lot of us were thinking about just having it a little bit more lenient at the beginning of the school year to see how it goes. As long as we're not like barging into a classroom and disrupting the entire class, like I'm saying, if someone has the same lunch period as you, but they're like a year or two younger, would be able to bring something, your younger sibling forgot something at home. Like one new policy we have in our high school this year is no cell phones, unless it's your lunchtime. And underclassmen obviously can't leave campus. Like one scenario that was brought up to me was if a parent was out of the house and working or something like that, and a younger student has forgot something at the house beforehand and is unable to get it, then their older sibling would be able to go back and bring some lunch or Chromebook, whatever they have forgotten.
I have a little bit of concern about opening this up broadly.
I'd rather leave it the way it is, and then go
Yeah.
back.
I'd rather not do that. Yeah.
Some more changes, how that.
I mean, I think you would probably consider some of those examples that you just shared, on a case-by-case basis if someone has.
If someone brought their sibling food and maybe mentioned it to us, and we're gonna be reasonable about that, right? But if it's like I'm gonna do a McDonald's run and bring back food for my sibling, that's not gonna be a real good thing.
I think one of the
It's a little
reasons-
hard to hear over here, I'm sorry, that blower is pretty loud.
Yeah,
One of the reasons that I think that I hear what you're requesting, we offer free lunch for everyone, so no one's going to go hungry in this scenario. So I know, and it has been, in previous years, when people have presented to the board, it has been considered disruption, even if it's just going into the cafeteria, the bags of McDonald's coming in. And
Yeah, in general, we don't allow them to take outside food into the cafeteria. It's helpful that there's the senior picnic table. The senior table is outside the cafeteria, and there's like a table next to it too, if there's a lot of seniors, and that's usually a better place. So last year, for example, there was a pizza, because the West Enosburg store apparently makes excellent pizzas that everyone loves, and we didn't allow those to go in the cafeteria. We gave the seniors through an impromptu pizza party. We just said, okay, you're gonna stay outside. Yeah, I mean, my concern is largely about nutrition, right? Is you're gonna get, we have a really strong food service program in this district, and I wanna, have kids with full, healthy tummies when they go home. And so it makes it a true privilege for seniors, to be able to do that.
So say, move it the way it is.
So that's good.
Any other questions? Cool.
I'm sorry, I should probably move my seat. It's so loud over here. Did you guys just approve them? Or-
Yes.
Yes,
The way it's written.
okay. Sorry.
I told her the way it's written is fine, and then if she wants to come back later on to discuss the food, we can discuss it, so. That works for you.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the lounge, actually.
Thank you, receivers, for that.
And our hope in the future is that the rising seniors will be able to present in May or June at the earlier board meeting, so they can do some of that pre-planning as during their junior year. We had hoped to do that. That's all right. Morgan, thank you. You spoke really well. I really appreciate you representing the class.
I'd vote for you for senior class president. You did a great job.
You can stay if you want, or you can head home if you want. Your choice.
Either way, I think we'll stay here for a little bit.
Right. You really deserve to be president.
Next Next up is Morgan.
All right, I'll try to be quick because I tend to take up a lot of your time starting next month with budget discussions. The first action item on the agenda is related to your membership in VisBit, which for Elijah and Lisa's benefit is the insurance co-op that Franklin Northeast and most supervisory unions and school districts belong to. Their annual meeting is on October 27th, in conjunction with the VSA and VSBA annual meeting. At their annual meeting, there are 2 board seats that are going to be elected. There's not anything else on the agenda of any import. And you have the choice of either naming someone to be your representative at that meeting and vote those items that come up by vote, or you can give your proxy to the VisBit, the current board to vote. Lynn and I are both planning on being there. Mort, I don't know if you're planning on being there. You're not. You are going to go.
Yes, yeah.
So it's in early morning, not much happens at it anymore.
So you'd be there for both days if you will?
I was actually gonna talk to Morgan about that, but I think I would like to at least.
Okay. So they could also give it to you if you will. So you just need to pick someone to serve as your proxy. You could give this board, Morgan, a Kula, or myself. But I don't know.
We will need a motion, so if you want to appoint a person, the motion would read, a motion to appoint whoever as authorized representative to appear and vote on behalf of the board at any and all meetings of the members of the Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust or any adjournment thereof.
So I makes a motion
For
for the first one?
for what person?
For
Kula?
All those in favor?
Great, I will be bringing a similar motion for the VI meeting. Those proxies are not ready yet, but it's basically the same scenario, same location, same exciting meeting. As I mentioned in the notes, we had our contractor walkthrough for Cold Hollow for the Sugar House project on August 29th. One came, the other one we believe is rescheduling for a site visit before bids are due. And we've heard that the third is not going to be bidding because after they submitted their pre-qualification statement, they won a bunch of other contracts and they don't have the personnel to do it. Those bids are due to us on September 18th. There has been a change in the AOE's stated interpretation of bid law, and so now we will not need a meeting of the board on the 18th. So those bids will come in, Nate and I, the architects, will review them. Hopefully there's then another one. And then we will still want a meeting on September 20th to accept one of those bids. That September 20th meeting can be completely by Zoom if people choose. We don't need anybody in person. I'll just run it from the office and Nate can be there or Zoom it as well.
Do you have an SU meeting that night, or are you proposing?
5:30 and then we'll have it done before the SU meeting at 6.
Anything else?
So that's just informational at this time. We've also been discussing over the last couple of years the idea of a larger project tied to this facility and upgrading it and bringing it more in line with the programs that are currently being offered here. At the last meeting or the meeting prior, we were talking about targeting November 2024 vote. There is advantage to this board to have it at an election that's already scheduled because we don't have to pay to have a special election then. If that is still the intent of the board, I would like a motion to negotiate a contract with Black River Design for pre-bond vote architectural services. In sort of a normal project like we did in Berkshire, you would have a contract with an architect that would go from the original concept all the way to the building being done. We're breaking this up into bringing us to bond and then the work after that, because we're sort of hopeful that there's gonna be some construction aid or money driven directly at tech centers that are gonna open up. And we don't know what those restrictions are yet, so we don't wanna tie you to a long-term contract that we then can't fund under those programs.
So you just need a motion for the architect design.
For the architect design, just to bring us to the vote, to the vote.
I'll pay for that.
Who has made the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Okay. So I'll start off with personnel, and I do think there probably been a few personnel changes, so principals, if you see something on there that isn't updated, feel free to jump in. You have to warn these so far in advance, and people have been doing lots of hiring still. So I know that we have some of these positions that are gonna go. So, do you have nothing that's actionable under personnel for hiring? Or do you want me to go through all of it, or do you just, are you okay with it being as written?
That's fine.
Okay, so we're happy to welcome all of those people to our FMSU team. We have had some resignations at Enosburg Elementary School. Longtime preschool teacher Beryl Paradis has chosen to retire. Ashley Beauregard, paraeducator, and Samantha Mason, pre-K paraeducator. We still have several open positions in the supervisory union, and that's something, if you don't mind, I would like to say, just so that we can get it on public record if people are watching. I encourage them to give us a try. We're offering a much more competitive wage, and we have a lot of benefits. Oh yes, I missed that part. Sorry, thank you, Brittany. So I'm going to back up to the resignation piece and ask for the board to make a motion to accept Carol's resignation.
So next motion, all those in favor?
Just moving myself too quickly through there. Okay. So remaining open positions that we have in FMESU at Enosburg Elementary School, we're looking for a paraeducator, behavior technician, a bus monitor, a pre-K teacher, and a pre-K paraeducator. At Enosburg Middle School, we're still looking for a school counselor. At Enosburg High School, an evening custodian, a behavior technician, a paraeducator, a director of school counseling, a halftime French teacher, varsity boys volleyball coach, varsity bowling coach, varsity cheerleading, family engagement coordinator. At Richford Elementary School, we're looking for a 0.6, 3-day-a-week FTE librarian, a school counselor, a school social worker, a school-based clinician, a grade 5 teacher, and a long-term elementary classroom substitute teacher. At Richford High School, we're looking for paraeducators and a behavior technician. The last piece is informational. It should have been put in as action. Julie Jarvis Patel is your assistant principal at Enosburg Middle School, and she is going out on FMLA leave. And I believe, you remember the date, the anticipated date?
October 4th.
October 4th. So, really fortunate that Lisa DeLorme, a long-time experienced administrator, she's worked for us at FMESU several times before and has filled some administrator vacancies, whether they were short-term or long-term. She actually worked at Enosburg Middle School when Rachel Reynolds had her child. She will be filling in for Julie while she's away, so we're thrilled to have Lisa stepping in and working to support there. And that was all I have on the personality questions on any of that. So I don't have anything under student except some really fabulous pictures that our principals have been doing a wonderful job of taking photos and getting them posted to our social media pages. And there's just some examples of all of the cool things. We're in the beginning of week 3 of our school year, and there's a lot of good experiences and learning opportunities that are already happening in our classrooms. So happy to have those examples there. I'm going to talk a little bit about just some reflections I have from the beginning of the school year. We began our year the 3rd week of August at our convocation, and we had a very, very packed Enosburg auditorium with all of our FNESU staff members. With the addition of Sheldon into FNESU, it adds a lot of extra people into the auditorium, and this year we asked everybody to come, all of our facility staff, all of our food service staff, and I think the sentiment was that it was a pretty great day. We were able to do some messaging, and the goal this year was to really make connections for people about the foundational work that we've been doing, the board goals, the mission and vision of the organization, and how we're all working together as stewards of that board work, the board goals that have been established for us. And our feedback was that I think a lot of light bulbs went off that day. The design of the day was different than it normally is. We were able to allow teams to have time to look at the board goals, look at the 3 big buckets that we've been working on. I shouldn't say buckets, but really looking at academic proficiency, in particular early literacy, as one of the board goal areas, and developing social and emotional learning skills, and working towards proficiency in each of those grade bands, and then working on student-centered personalization, best practices in connection to our approachable learner work that we're doing at FNESU. So all of our learning for the day was tied around each of those 3 big goals. So teams were able to interact with some professional learning, but then also some planning for themselves about what does that team want to work on and how is it connected to one or more of those board goals. So they were able to do some planning forward for the remainder of the year on what it is that they want to work together in. And we're wanting our teachers to be more personalized and really getting into student-centered practices, so we try to model that with the way we design the afternoon. So our teachers were able to self-select what they felt like was a next appropriate area for them to do some more professional learning on. And again, we're centered on those 3 work goals in those 3 areas. So pretty good feedback about that. It was a change from really defining specifically what every person is going to be doing for their professional learning to giving a menu of choices. Felt comfortable to some and a little uncomfortable to some, which was expected. But all in all, it was a pretty great day, and I've actually been seeing in my visits in schools around the supervisory union, I've been seeing some evidence that that's carrying forward into buildings. One example, I walked into Enosburg Elementary School, and in the lobby, the board goals are right there as people come in, so people can see that these are the priorities that we're working on. And the other piece that we're seeing is that many of the principals ask educators to write a professional goal for the year, and a lot of the teachers have chosen one of those 3 areas to focus in on, and we've been just seeing a lot of connections to the work, which is really exciting. It feels like we've come out of this really heavy place with the pandemic and all that we were trying to hold during the pandemic, and we were still trying to do this good work and build the capacity in our system, and foundationally, a lot of the track has been laid, and it feels like we're right there where we're starting to build some momentum. And so in all of my school visits, I was able to visit within the first, I think I did 6 schools on the first day and 3 on the 3rd day, because I was in a meeting all day on the 2nd day. But within that the first 4 days, I was able to see all the schools and get into almost every classroom. I had poor timing in a couple of them with lunches and recesses, and we had some, I think I think at Enosburg High School, we had an assembly going on the time that I was there, but lots of really happy students, lots of really eager, happy faculty and staff as well. So I'm optimistic that we're off to a great start, and we're going to have a really positive school year that's really focused on growth within the organization. Okay, next up, one of my goals professionally this year is to do a better job of highlighting some of the good work that we're doing at FNHU and making that more visible to all stakeholders, not just for the people within our organization and not just for the board members, but also for the greater community. So we have designed a monthly community newsletter that we're going to be sending out. It's actually, we're hoping to be able to hit send in just a few days. Courtney has been hard at work with the design of this, and she's got it nearly ready to publish. We still have some pieces that we have to work on to embed in there to get it completed, but this is a newsletter that's going to be co-authored by members of our central office team. So we have really taken a look at, what are the priorities we're working on? How can we center what's happening in our schools? And we've created a storyboard for the year. So by way of example, our facilities director has a plan for the year so that he knows each month he's going to highlight something related to facilities in one of our schools. And we have, I think, 5 different school spotlight areas within that newsletter each month. So every other month, families will be seeing their school reflected in one of those highlights. So we want this to be there's a little bit of something for everyone. So Courtney's gonna hit the draft template, and she's incredibly excited about this because she found a new template today that we like even better than what our original design was. So this is a bit of a draft. So we're gonna have a school spotlight every month, and they'll see a little bit of a highlight about what's happening in each of those schools. And we're going to take some opportunities to introduce our central office staff so we can demystify what it is that everyone does at central office and in what ways they're working to help support the work of the organization. You'll see a section each month that's focused on curriculum instruction and learning that'll be co-authored by our co-interim directors of instruction and learning. You're really getting a preview because there's content in this and there was not before. And then there'll be some updates. So we'll have, there's a spotlight in there this month for Richford Elementary in the REITs section. So we'll always have something in there about our after school programs. We'll have something in there about food service. Montgomery Elementary is being highlighted there, and Berkshire's being highlighted for the early ed spotlight. We will have sections that will be considered tips for families. So we've got some information this month in there about school safety. There'll be some technology tips for families, and we'll have this part I think it's down lower, but there'll be information also around early literacy and math and how families can support that in children. We have a section that we're trying to highlight that's centered around family engagement each month, and this month in particular, sometimes Michelle Irish might author that section, or it also might come from some of the people that are doing family engagement work within our schools. So we've centered this month on school attendance and the importance of it. We also will have an update on what's the educational equity work that we're doing and why is all so important. That's to be the title each month. All means all through the equity lens. So there's information in there. We'll focus on the student learning section. Michelle Taberge will have information about what's happening in FNESU around student services and special programs. And there's the section around math and literacy for families. Those might not both be in every newsletter, but there'll be something like that in each newsletter. And we'll conclude each month with all of the positions that are open in FNESU, and encourage community members to think about coming to work for us. So we're hoping that this will make the work that we're trying to do at FNESU much more visible to people and encourage some participation and conversation in our communities. Any questions or comments about that? So next is we have the board goals, and as I already talked about, we have a board goal centered on academic proficiency, in particular early literacy, social emotional learning, student-centered practices, and then we have another goal that the board has been just at the board level focusing on, and that's been around teacher recruitment and retention. So this month, my board monitoring plan data is centered on that. So the board chose a strategy, it was a retention strategy last spring. Both boards chose this, and we took a look at what does the, I'm realizing that the numbers didn't show up on that. I have them here though. So contracts, we negotiated the last time we were in negotiations last fall with the, I'm sorry, the year before, correct, Morgan? With the teachers union. And we were able to negotiate in an earlier offer, or earlier date for offering contracts, which really helps us because the hiring season for teachers is very short. So we historically could not send teacher contracts out until April 16th, somewhere around there, 15th or 16th. This year we were able to send out contracts on April 3rd, and with the retention strategy that we put into place for anyone who returned their contract, that was a Monday, by that Friday at the close of business, they were eligible for the early signing bonus. So it proved to be an incredibly effective strategy. There were schools that knew immediately which positions they knew that they were not gonna have to look for, and it gave them some information about what they might have to look for. So you had 95% at Enosburg Elementary, 83% at the middle school, 96% at the high school, 78% at Cook Hollow, 94% at Richford Elementary, and 72% at Richford Junior Senior High School, for a total of 86.3%. In the ER schools and in FNESU overall, we knew that 90% of our teachers were returning as those contracts run out. So we've done a lot of work studying the impact of teacher turnover and the cost associated with teacher turnover over the years. And there's research that supports the average cost of onboarding a new educator is somewhere around $10,000 by the time you look at all that you are investing in terms of training and the staff that work to support that person. Just cost-wise, there's financial-wise, there's a cost. There's also another cost as you're turning over employees. There's a cost to the student's experience, as they're experiencing sometimes year after year brand new educators in their educational experience. So this has, in my opinion, been a really effective strategy for us. It was something that the teachers seemed really excited about. We have just done, we sent out today, I believe, did we go out today? We had a survey that went out to all of our staff members, again, more data for our recruitment and retention strategic plan. Just hearing from our new staff, we want information about why they chose to come to FNESU, how well supported have they felt in this first month, and what impact did this have if they were coming from another school, compensation-wise, what impact did that shift have on them? Did you make more money here, or less than, or the same? So there's data we want to get from our new staff. We also want to get data from the staff who chose to stay here. We want to know why they chose to stay here. We've given them access to our strategic plan. We want to hear from them feedback around that as well. So I'll have more data to bring to you in future months, but this will continue to be a strategy that we're working hard at. Any questions? That's all I have for you, Mark.
The next is the principal's report. Kelly?
Is all information.
Beth?
It's all informational, but I want to point out a couple of things. So, on the data for the board monitoring plan as far as PLPs, we really use the definition active PLPs. So more students than that have PLPs, but we were really looking at students who are using that consistently. And we have some students who are through the CBP program, through which is collaborative diploma program through Vermont Virtual Learning. So they're all virtual, so we included those students in the number, and we don't really have direct contact with them, so they didn't have PLPs or participate in supervised conferences. And we also included our TAP students, because our TAP students were our students last year, and not all of them had the capacity to do that, so that did impact those numbers. And one other thing I wanted to point out that I'm pretty proud of, and it really works with our mission of improving our community. Our girls soccer team is having a game against MVU on the 30th, and to raise money for suicide awareness, and the money, or raise awareness for teenage suicide. And Richford's share is going to the AMV Foundation, Jody Davenport's daughter's foundation, and MVU wants to put their share of the money to that cause as well. And we're going to be approaching Enosburg. A former graduate from Richford, Brian Snyder, he also graduated from Cole Hollow, has a rare type of cancer of the joints, and we would like to do a fundraiser for them with the Enosburg soccer game coming up. We haven't come up with a date for that yet.
Was that game here?
No, that one will be they'll both be in Richford. Both the games will be in Richford. So we do have the September 30th date, so if any of you can come, we'd love to see you that day. And we'll be publicizing the game with Enosburg. It might be an additional.
What'd you say?
We'll have to look at what that date is. I'm not sure what that is.
We can have some fun.
That's great.
Some spirit.
So before you go to the next principal, I should have tipped this. So I will be bringing you data from the board monitoring plan, and principals will be bringing you data on many of the months with the board monitoring plan. So in this month's report, there's data around some of the personalization and student-centered work that we've been doing. So participation in student-led conferences and active PLPs will fall into that category. So that's why you're seeing that data this month. I should have tipped that before we started.
Jen?
All informational, but I did want to highlight, Lynn mentioned earlier that teachers were making goals, and they all linked their goals to one of the 3 board goals. And I found it interesting that I naturally thought they were going to go SEL or reading by 3rd grade. I had a majority of my teachers pick a goal under the PLP. And it even starts off as a high school, the way the board is written, but they really wanted to focus on that individual learning and student ownership. And so I was really surprised and happy that they saw how they linked to all 3 goals. And they actually chose that for their own personal goal. I was excited.
Do we need to have the campus approved? We'll just list them there.
Oh, my handbook, is it?
Yeah, that was mine too.
It was
I
yours
have
too.
my student handbook that needs it too.
You want to take those as a slate?
So, yes, so you're gonna do the handbooks as a group. Highlight that, I'm just tickled, because poor Akua heard this already, because Akua came to our Title I meeting before this one. But, so this is this is our second Tuesday, with the early release for more professional development time. And last week we had a lot of housekeeping to take care of, but we launched our new approach that we put a lot of thought into, which is, the first part is actually really focusing on, the original plan was how do we do, we're calling them home bases because we like fun names for things, but how do we do advisory? And we had some training over the summer from a group out of St. Albans called Sweethearts and Heroes that presented to us. And it's really powerful anti-bullying, but also really about building empathy. And that is something that we know in society, people seeing other people's perspectives and understanding each other's, challenges, really needs to be built. And also, we need to keep working on that in Enosburg with our high school. And so we spent 2 days during in-service training on that. And now we're gonna keep it sustained by spending about 45 minutes. You know, I had originally said 20 to 30 minutes, but the training we did was so powerful and gave so many teachers a changed view of what a strong advisory with great kid-to-kid connections and, you know, the power of connecting with people like that, that we decided we're gonna spend more of our time on Tuesdays to keep that sustained, so it didn't fall off the map. And because for teachers to implement, you can't just get trained once and then be an expert at facilitating something that's kind of different, like an advisory group. So we're gonna sustain. And then the second thing is, I'm calling them committees, but they're equivalent to the district SIT teams, the school improvement teams. And so the second hour of it is teachers trying to embed ownership for a lot of what we're doing with teachers. So actually, the co-chairs of each of the 5 committees constitute the high school. This month is mostly high school. I'll talk about the middle school in the future, but they constitute the core of the high school leadership team. And we do have one on EST because that process has needed, lighting some fire, how to use data in our school. One is on home base or advisory. One is on expos. We're working towards doing, who had some great ideas. We did some great brainstorming, but like community-oriented presentations and learning in January at the end of the semester. So they work with the expo committee. We have a culture committee that's working on our monthly assemblies and also other connection activities within the school. And then we have we have a community committee that one is more of a beginner committee that we have less work in the past, but it's looking at community service and how do we break down, the divide between school and community so that we have kids doing better community integration type activities and making that more of a core piece of learning instead of I got to do my hours, like that kind of community service. So they all met today. I was able to go into all of them, and I'm just tickled that we have the time to do this because we didn't have it in the past. And I know that not every parent in FNESU was delighted to have kids getting out a little earlier, but we've got a plan for making stuff happen that we wouldn't be able to get done.
Thank you for sharing that.
Was that?
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All informational highlights are 110 to knock on there is Friday and Saturday. We have the 12th that are going to nationals, but we got some states. Today is Friday morning, next Saturday afternoon. And other than that, it's been a great start to the year. I think it's really fun. I think they're really knocking it out of the park. So.
Is that FFA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You have Richford Elementary, Enosburg Elementary, Enosburg Middle High School.
So,
I'm sorry, that blower is so loud. What a
for
terrible.
for the handbooks.
Sorry.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept Enosburg Elementary as the high school. There's been a motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so on your business, next meeting is scheduled for October 10th, at the high school.
Yes.
Any other future agenda items?
Sure, right now.
This is actually my last ER meeting. I am getting done off the boards. I am on multiple other boards. I have a lot of other stuff going on, personal and everything, and timing just doesn't work out. And I felt that it was more important that, you had somebody on board that could be here for every meeting and really invest their time in it. And unfortunately, right now, it's just not working out with my schedule. So, but I did enjoy my time on the board, and hopefully maybe someday I can make the
finding work again, because I didn't really like being able to work, but unfortunately it's not working. Well, I hope that happens, I hope we're able to circle back eventually, that works better for you, but thank you very much for the service that you provided to the ER board. Very helpful.
Can we stop?
So now you're going to have another board seat. So what we have typically done is, full transparency to the community, we post that we have another board seat open and ask for interest. I'm glad Lisa is still on, and we would want Lisa to come back to us next month. We will post that, and we will do the same thing in terms of receiving any interested candidates and hearing from them, and then making an appointment at next month's meeting. Does that make sense? Okay.
Still to tomorrow night, to reach out.
Oh, yes, so I think we'll do it the same way that we did it last month, so if anyone is interested in the community and being on the ER board, they have to be an Enosburg resident. They would reach out to both Courtney Fletcher and Mark Greenwood. I think I said it incorrectly last time, you are Greenwood at fnesu.org, and Courtney is Courtney.Fletcher at fnesu.org. So anyone with interest should reach out to them. I think also, I just have a note that the next time we come back together, when we reorganize, we'll have to see if anybody's interested in the policy committee meeting. We'll have Elijah in a place where Elijah will be able to participate more actively. We'll get him sworn in. So we'll be looking for a policy committee member, and we'll also, because Shaylee also represents the SU board, you're gonna stay on for the SU board this month, you said, and then you'll jump off that board as well, so, we'll look for the SU appointment as well.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Who's made the motion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody.